Support for NPR and the following message come from USPS. Did you know USPS Ground Advantage service keeps your business in the know from dock to delivery and everywhere in between? Keep your business in the know at usps.com/in-the-know.
Hello, hello. I'm Brittany Luce, and you're listening to It's Been a Minute from NPR, a show about what's going on in culture and why it doesn't happen by accident. Sex sells. It's an age-old adage, but online, there's something that sells just as much, if not more, than sex. Outrage. And what happens when you put the two together? Well,
in the past couple of months, we've seen a lot of tabloidy headlines of a few OnlyFans creators who are doing what could reasonably be called like rage bait porn, which is they do these extreme sex stunts where they're having sex with, up to 100 guys in a day or even 1,000 guys in a day. And as you can imagine, people have a lot of feelings about it.
That is Rebecca Jennings, features writer at New York Magazine.
I actually see it as like not very sexual at all. I think it's more similar to something like a Mr. Beast video.
This confluence of influencer and sex work prompted Rebecca to write Why Rage Bait OnlyFans Stars Like Bonnie Blue Have Success for Vulture. She spoke to creators Bonnie Blue, Lily Phillips, and Annie Knight about how they've used rage to capitalize on the shock and awe of these stunts.
To be a successful OnlyFans model, you do have to have what I usually call like content creator brain or influencer brain, where like you are always trying to top yourself.
The OnlyFans discourse pushes people's buttons so effectively. It really brings out everything they feel, their desire, their anxiety, their insecurities, right?
That is author and writer Charlotte Shane. As a former sex worker and sex work advocate, she notices the complexities in how Americans think about the world's oldest industry.
One of the things I think the United States is famous for is for having this sort of like puritanical streak and a very demonstrable puritanical impulse in our laws and our rhetoric. People condemn it and they consume it at the same time. There does seem to be a reaction against sex that's stronger than anything I think I've seen in my adult life. Like a repudiation of it that is sort of fear-based.
Today on the show, Rebecca Jennings and Charlotte Shane join me to look at the way online influencers, rage bait, and sex work have captured the attention of the masses, whether you're actively consuming this content or not.
So all three of the women I talked to, these are women at like the top of their field. They are the exception, not the rule. They have multiple assistants, they have videographers, they have people working for them.
They employ staff, it sounds like.
Yeah, they employ staffs to organize these events. They take safety precautions, they get tested regularly. I think like so much of this conversation is also about like the way that so many people want to become influencers because they think the job is easy. Whereas like these women are also influencers. Like they are full-time content creators. They are making content that can go on Instagram. And on top of that, they're also doing the labor of sex work. There's a trend now where a lot of these like top OnlyFans girls who are posting TikToks every day and who are really successful and millionaires, they're like, here are all the things to like consider. Like, first of all, you have to become famous already, and then you can maybe become successful on OnlyFans. And so it's really just like the amount of work that goes into it. It's like, it's crazy, especially because one of the OnlyFans agency founders that I talked to, she was like, early pandemic, you could make a quick buck on OnlyFans. There was less competition, there was less skepticism towards the whole thing. And she was like, now like if you're just like taking a couple of photos a month, which like, again, is a lot of work, like doing a whole photo shoot, DMing with subscribers, like she's like, those people have probably seen about a 70% drop in their income because the girls that are winning are making those TikToks every single day and they're working to get their name out there. And one way to do that is by doing these stunts. And so I think that's why we're seeing that.
It seems like these creators know they're going to be used as examples, kind of like in the gender wars or in online puritanism discourse. You know that people are going to pick up what they're doing and like disavow it. How is their content and the way that they're promoting it hitting a cultural nerve in this respect?
Well, I suppose in the wake of the pandemic, OnlyFans started to be pretty ubiquitous. And that was the moment when I think celebrities sometimes began aligning themselves with the service. And all of a sudden, I think it felt kind of like it was having a moment of cultural dominance. Basically, the advent of the internet brought the entry into sex work of a lot of otherwise like middle class women who, it was accessible and easy and relatively anonymous. And so there's always been this churn of articles about, oh my God, our middle class women are able to take to the internet streets and get themselves into trouble.
But also like a thing that kept coming up when I was reporting the story is that like this stuff has to do with like you develop, a parasocial relationship with this OnlyFans model in order to give her, your subscription every month or like DM with her. One of the women I talked to, Annie Knight, who's done one of these stunts, she's like, anyone can go look up a girl that looks just like me on Pornhub, whatever, and find it. But like through that, she was sort of like, well, like, how can I top it? Like she had already talked about having sex with like 300 people in a year. And then people were like, when are you going to do 600? And then she's like, I'll do one in a day. And, it's like, and she kept generating headlines for that and therefore, getting more and more attention.
So Charlotte, I'm curious, what concerns do you have for some of the women doing these stunts?
I would say that something that is a great challenge to us still, and just being like Americans, is thinking about labor rights and understanding sex work as work. Even though sex worker activists gained a lot of ground and getting people to even call it sex work, right? Trying to get the workers protections, rights, organizing power so they can decide what they need, what helps keep them safe, what, mitigates their risks as much as possible. I think our problem in general is not understanding what the real problem is. And we just say, I don't like this. I don't want to think about it. It shouldn't be this way. But we're kind of addressing the wrong end.
So instead of society as a whole being focused on worker protections, there's a focus on shaming the women doing this work, whether it's voluntary sex work or survival sex work.
Yeah, I worry really about the amount of hatred and attention these women are getting. I would not say I've even like experienced a fraction of what they have, but as someone who was involved in sex work activism, was an out sex worker, it's really affecting. And if you've never felt it before, I think it's difficult to imagine or understand like how affecting it is to have someone revile you and pity you and talk down to you and dress it up as concern and just, disregard you. And it's actually really intense.
Yeah, I think it has everything to do with the attitude towards sex work generally, and especially online sex work. I think with the rise of OnlyFans, a lot of OnlyFans creators that I've spoken to, they say that the reason it pisses people off so much is because there's never been a platform for sex work that puts the money directly in the hands of the sex worker themselves. And I think that's part of the reason why it has such a stigma among men. It's like men are happy to, work with sex workers in the shadows or whatever. But now if it's like in your face, if this OnlyFans model is really big on Instagram, is dating like a guy that you think is really cool, what does that do to your own ego as like a man?
I wonder though also, people are not having as much sex, especially younger people right now. It seems like a schism, like in our culture, where there's these like huge stunts that are gaining mainstream attention. And for some people, like a fear around sex or an avoidance of it almost.
I think it's so interesting to be in a time where you have some people, very young people, seriously arguing that sex shouldn't be in literature, that sex shouldn't be in art, that mainstream movies don't need to depict sex, right? That there does seem to be a reaction against sex that's stronger than anything I think I've seen in my adult life.
Coming up,
I've been thinking about the Jubilee debates that are like one man versus 20 Nazis. And it's just like, it's like, how is that much different? I'm sorry, I don't see a huge difference in that.
More when we come back.
This message comes from FX's Alien Earth. From creator Noah Hawley and executive producer Ridley Scott comes the first television series inspired by the legendary Alien film franchise. A spaceship crash lands on Earth, bringing 5 unique and deadly species, more terrifying than anyone could have ever imagined. And a technological advancement marks a new dawn in the race for immortality. FX's Alien Earth. All new Tuesdays on FX and Hulu. Support for this podcast and the following message come from Mint Mobile. This year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get this new customer offer and your 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/minute. That's mintmobile.com/minute. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. This message comes from REI Co-op. A summit view, climbing El Cap, a faster mile, or that first 5K. It all starts here, with gear, clothing, classes, and advice to get you there. So you can wave to your limits as you pass them by. Visit rei.com or your local REI Co-op. Opt outside.
There's going to be people listening to this who think that this doesn't have anything to do with them. And they're like, okay, well, I'm not buying any sex work. This is not part of my life. But for those who don't do or buy sex work, why should they pay attention to this discourse? How does it affect them?
I mean, yeah, I think for me, it's like so much of what we see on the internet is designed to piss you off. And I think contextualizing that will always be useful in a more nuanced way, in a way that does not shame the influencers who are partaking in this attention economy, but also in a way that like makes people realize that they don't have to get riled up over everything that they see. And that often it is a performance. Maybe you don't need to see like this kind of work as victims versus like victors or whatever. And it's just a lot more about the attention economy and just kind of being aware of where this stuff comes from. And like, I don't see how it's all that different from like, I've been thinking about the Jubilee debates that are like 1 man versus 20 Nazis. And it's just like, you know, it's like, how is that much different? I'm sorry, I don't see a huge difference.
That's a really good point. That's a very, very interesting point. That's a very interesting point. Ultimately, I wonder, what does it mean for our culture that rage bait, influencing, and sex work are merging in some places?
I think this is just the way that technology companies have found people to stay the most engaged. I think like we all, like, you know, we're 15, 20 years into a social media driven world. It's like, this is what keeps people on their phones. And even when it's like, I'm sure there are plenty of people who watch this as eroticism or whatever, but it's like one of the agents I talked to, he was like, this is brain rot. Like, this is not erotic for a lot of people. It is for some people, obviously, but like for a lot of people, it's brain rot. And whatever keeps people, you know, glued to their phone is what people are going to make more of.
Thank you both so much. This was great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
That was features writer at New York Magazine, Rebecca Jennings, and author and writer, Charlotte Shane. And I'm going to put on my influencer hat for a second and ask you to please subscribe to this show on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you're listening. Click follow so you know the latest in culture while it's still hot. This episode of It's Been a Minute was produced by
Alexis Williams,
Liam McBain.
This episode was edited by
Nina Patak.
Our supervising producer is
Barton Girdwood.
Our executive producer is
Verilyn Williams.
Our VP of programming is
Yolanda Sanguini.
All right, that's all for this episode of It's Been a Minute from NPR. I'm Brittany Luce. Talk soon.
This message comes from Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile took what's wrong with wireless and made it right. They offer premium wireless plans for less, and all plans include high-speed data, unlimited talk and text, and nationwide coverage. See for yourself at mintmobile.com/switch.
This message comes from NPR sponsor 1Password. Secure access to your online world, from emails to banking, so you can protect what matters most with 1Password. For a free 2-week trial, go to onepassword.com/NPR.
This message comes from Bombas. Socks, underwear, and T-shirts are the top 3 requested clothing items by people experiencing homelessness. Bombas makes all 3 and donates 1 item for every item purchased. Go to bombas.com/NPR and use code NPR for 20% off.